This story is based on a true-life experience of Osing in Oton, Iloilo, Philippines. During this time, Osing had just returned to Iloilo from Tubong, Iloilo, where his parents were from, but he did not grow up there. During his few days of stay in their home, his parents strongly reminded him to avoid talking to anyone, as he might not like the behavior of the people there and what they might do to him. When Osing walks on the street, his younger sibling accompanies him. Despite looking unkempt, they are respected in their locality. Whenever Osing is with his sibling or any member of his family, no one from their village approaches him. One day, while he was hanging out outside their house, his father approached him wearing a hat and farm clothes. "Osing, are you busy? Come with me. We have somewhere to go," his father said. "Sure, Dad. I'm not doing anything anyway," Osing replied. After their brief conversation, they immediately started walking towards the village. Osing thought they were going to buy something, but when they arrived at the center of the village, his father revealed that they were going to visit his friend. A few minutes later, they reached a large house with 2 floors. Osing knew that wealthy people lived there because of the house's grandeur. He had seen the place several times, but had never been inside. "Eliseo, good afternoon. Can we come in?" his father asked as he knocked on the door. Shortly after, a house servant opened the door to let them in. "Please come in. Tandang Ignacio, my masters are waiting for you," the servant said. Upon hearing this, Osing and his father entered without hesitation. As they entered the house, they were greeted by the whole family of the owner, who were seated and silent. As they approached, the father slowly stood up, and Osing noticed the unusual demeanor of the family they were visiting. "Eliseo, I am glad to see you again. I came to your house because I received news about the plans of your relatives here concerning my child. We live here peacefully and have an agreement with you, so I want you to respect anyone from my family. I know you understand this because you lead your people. Let's not allow this simple conversation to lead to misunderstanding," his father said. Upon hearing this, Osing struggled to understand the full meaning behind his father's words. It seemed to carry a deeper significance that he couldn't fully grasp. After a few minutes, Eliseo raised his hand, and at the same time, his servants brought out fruits for snacks. "Sorry, Ignacio. I didn't expect someone to threaten your child's life. Don't worry. When I find out who made this threat, I'll deal with them right in front of you. There's no place in our community for traitors and bold individuals against any creature I consider as a peer," Eliseo replied humbly after their conversation. After talking, they decided to eat. Eliseo's family ate meat, while Osing and his father only had fruits. Osing didn't complain, but he thought the family was very stingy. Before they left, Osing was surprised once again. He didn't expect his father to have such a high reputation in the village where he grew up. As they walked home, Osing kept asking about what happened, but no matter how hard he thought about it, he couldn't figure out what his father and Eliseo were discussing. "Dad, what happened? Who's being threatened? And who are those wealthy families?" Osing asked his father. "Hehehe, Eliseo is also our family, not by blood but by alliance. Our conversation earlier was just to clarify things and make sure they're still on our side to avoid any risky situations. Sorry, son, your visit to our village didn't go well," his father replied. Upon hearing this, Osing decided to stay quiet, even though he was deeply confused. When they arrived home, they didn't enter through the front door, but chose to go through the back where a bucket filled with water and calamansi leaves awaited them. "Before you enter, take a bath, rinse your clothes, and hang them outside," his father instructed. After Osing did as he was told, he noticed that the whole family was waiting inside, discussing something as if something unusual was happening. Out of curiosity, he approached them to find out what they were talking about. As he listened, Osing slowly realized that they were talking about the lineage of aswangs, creatures that pretend to be human and eat human flesh. and those spouses are subtly attempting to take his life. As he continues to listen, he can hardly help but wonder who desires to kill him, especially since he doesn't interact with many people and rarely leaves their home. After a few minutes, Osing suddenly asked, "Dad, why am I being targeted by aswangs? And are they really true? Because in the city, they're just used as a scare tactic for children," Osing said. "Just because you don't see them doesn't mean they're not real. Just because it's a topic doesn't mean it's all lies. Remember that every story has its roots in truth. For now, even if you don't believe in aswangs, I want you to follow all our instructions while we haven't figured out the culprit yet," his father replied, handing him an amulet wrapped in symbols. "Wear this around your waist at all times. Don't lose it because it will protect you in times of danger," he added. After their conversation, their siblings began to close their house. It was only 4 o'clock, and they made sure all the windows were closed to prevent any bad air from entering. Their mother also burned herbs in their yard to drive away evil elements lurking around. By twilight, only Osing's parents were outside their house, keeping watch to ensure the safety of their family. While Osing sat in the living room, he kept asking his younger sibling what their parents were doing. It was his first time seeing them, so he was quite puzzled. "Just let them be, Inai. Kuya, they're doing that to keep you safe at home. We did the same when our cousin from the city visited," his sibling replied. They added that their parents' vigilance was to show the aswangs that they fear nothing. Their parents had slain many aswangs and encantos of different kinds, so their family was respected in the village. "Don't you wonder, Kuya, why our family is respected in this village?" his sibling asked. "I'm not surprised anymore because I know they have many wealthy acquaintances. That's why we're respected," Osing replied. "You're mistaken, Kuya. We're respected here because we're the only family without aswang blood living here," Osing explained. "They're all afraid of us because of the deep knowledge our father possesses. Perhaps you haven't noticed the presence of the aswangs around here yet because you're still new," his sibling replied. Just as Osing was about to respond, they were all suddenly startled by their father's conversation with someone. Curious, Osing tried to create a small hole in their wall to see what was happening in their yard. When he peered through the gap, he was shocked to see his parents surrounded by creatures that looked entirely new to him. Osing described them as having scaly skin, red eyes, sharp claws, and many fangs in their mouths. They also had long legs, seemingly capable of jumping several feet. He estimated there were nearly 20 of them outside their yard, unable to enter as if there were barriers preventing them. While observing, Osing heard his father saying, "It turns out Eliseo's lineage isn't the one threatening my child." "Well, that's good to hear." His father's words were accompanied by his mother's, rising to prepare for whatever might happen upon hearing the creature's growls. Their parents immediately rushed forward to start the fight, but before they could get close to the creatures, Osing was shocked when a figure resembling a wolf suddenly lunged at the creatures. It had glowing eyes but emitted a foul odor that caused Ignacio to stop in his tracks to observe the situation. Shortly after, an aswang with a transforming appearance approached them. "Ignacio, forgive us for our request. Let us be the ones to kill these demons so we can at least be on equal ground," Eliseo said. Upon hearing this, Ignacio ignited the fire at the end of his staff, while his wife slowly concealed her glowing stick. After they did this, they returned to their seats to observe the surroundings. Soon, Osing lost sight of the battling creatures as the darkness enveloped the area. As his parents entered the house, he quickly covered the hole he had made to avoid being caught watching. However, not informing them of his actions turned out to be a grave mistake. The next morning, when Osing woke up, he felt an immense heaviness in his entire body. He couldn't move any of his fingers, no matter how hard he tried. Desperate for help, he turned to his parents, who immediately anointed him with oil to alleviate his suffering. It eased the heaviness he felt, but it didn't last long. As time passed, Osing experienced different sensations in his body. Occasionally, he couldn't help but scream as he felt an animal moving inside his stomach and chest, as if a snake were trying to emerge and escape. When his father found out, It was then confirmed that Osming might have been cursed by one of the aswangs they faced that night. "Osing, admit it. Were you watching last night?" his father angrily asked. "I'm sorry, Itai. I didn't mean to," he replied. His father only felt anger at that moment, confirming that Osing might indeed be under the curse of the aswang they encountered. Due to Ignacio's findings, his anger towards the clan they attempted to eradicate, led by Eliseo, intensified. He hardly imagined then that there was someone special among their enemies whose sole purpose was Osing. He knew that the leader had put that affliction on his child because his followers lacked the ability to cast spells on ordinary people. According to Ignacio, such curses typically afflicted people who had no fences or protection on their bodies. It was just a simple curse, but it caused harm and death to those unaware of the secrets of knowledge. That curse would only last for 2 days before being completely devoured by the serpent within the victim's body, taking everything they needed to survive on land. Additionally, that curse was known in their family as agak, a term from the language of the spirits, meaning spiritual poison. In the afternoon of that same day, Ignacio decided to take Osing to Eliseo's house. He sought help to track down the whereabouts of that lineage in a very short time. His friend didn't disappoint him, and accompanied him with full force, accompanied by Eliseo's strong men to ensure their safety. When they arrived at a large creek, they were greeted by a small village suspected to be the nest of their enemies. Without hesitation, Ignacio headed straight for it, while his son was assisted by his wife, preparing for unexpected events. Shortly after, they were met by elders from that place, smiling at them. "What's your business here, Ignacio?" the village chief asked. "You're asking me what my business is here, as if you don't know anything about what happened in the past few nights. Well, since you don't know, let me inform you. I'm here because a family of yours cursed my child. Withdraw it before blood spills on the ground you're standing on," threatened Osing's father. When the leader heard this, he just laughed while slowly becoming serious. After a while, he suddenly waved his right hand, and at the same time, a young man who Ignacio suspected of cursing his child emerged. Both of them had the same symptoms of the agak flowing through Osing's body when Ignacio tried to cure him once before. After seeing him, Ignacio quickly handed him over to his wife to watch over him closely. After his father did this, the young man immediately charged towards the creatures without hesitation, as the sun was nearing its descent on the land, making it easy for their enemies to change their appearance. When Eliseo saw his friends charge, they quickly followed to assist him. When Ignacio's staff touched the ground, its end suddenly lit up, surprising the surrounding aswangs. As he approached the aswangs, who were also advancing towards him, he mercilessly struck them with his blazing staff, accompanied by powerful incantations to prevent them from fighting back. Ignacio relentlessly struck them with his blazing staff, and soon the aswangs melted away until only their skeletons remained. In the ongoing battle, Osing witnessed the fall of some of Eliseo's comrades due to the overwhelming number of creatures around. Despite this, his father's allies continued to fight for their friend's sake until midnight approached, and half of Eliseo's men had fallen. Nevertheless, they continued to fight for their friend's sake. When the clock struck 1 in the early morning, suddenly, all the aswangs around transformed into human form. As they weakened, the son of their leader attempted to escape, but Ignacio swiftly caught him. "Take back the curse you placed on my child! Take it back!" Ignacio shouted at the creature while forcefully thrusting his staff into its weakening body. Realizing he had no choice, the aswang complied, albeit reluctantly. While being pulled towards Ignacio, the aswang seemed to be pulling something out of his chest. Sensing Osing's relief, Ignacio asked, "Is that all? Have you left anything behind?" "No more. Please forgive me," the aswang sobbed. Hearing this, Ignacio wanted to make sure that the aswang's apology was sincere, so he remained silent for a few minutes. The aswang stopped speaking, and all that was left was its crying. "Enough. I forgive you." but the forgiveness I give is not enough to absolve you of all the sins you committed against others. Suffer in hell and repent endlessly, Ignacio said. After he spoke, he immediately set the creature's body on fire. All the creature could do was scream, as its body was consumed by the fire from Ignacio's staff. After doing this, Ignacio quickly took the index finger of the young man to use as medicine for his son's illness. He administered the crushed bone of the aswang to Osing to ensure his complete recovery. By morning, Osing felt much better, and he expressed his gratitude to his parents and friends for the sacrifices they made to save his life. He decided to return to his hometown to forget all about his frightening experience. Even after marrying, Osing continued to share this story about his encounter when he was cursed by an aswang using the teachings of Agak, always boasting about his father, who was feared by the aswangs. Okay, our story ends here. If you enjoyed it, you can like and subscribe for more. Horror Stories see you soon to our new horror stories. Thank you.